So in this video, we are going to talk about how to define and call a void function. So basically functions are two types. We have void function, which is also called as non-value returning functions. And then the other type is value returning functions. So basically a void function is a function that will not return anything. So this will make sense when we are looking at value returning functions. So as the name suggests itself, a value returning function will return some output from that particular function. Okay, we'll see, we'll understand better when we are looking at the examples. So for now, let's just see and understand the defining and calling of a void function. So the code for the function is known as the function definition. To execute the function, you write the name of the function as your statement, and then you hit enter. So we'll see the examples for that as well. So each function name describes what the function does. So there are certain rules to name for naming the function names as well. So you cannot use keywords as your function names. So no print or no input can be your function name. And then it cannot contain spaces. Each character must be a letter, uppercase or lowercase, it doesn't matter, or an underscore. So you cannot start with a number. So everything must, like the function name must start with an alphabet followed by numbers. All the other characters must be letter, number, or an underscore. Uppercase and lower characters are distinct. We already know this. So we do know that capital letters and lowercase letters are not the same. And you cannot use any special characters in your functions as well, especially no hashtags, because hashtags are used for comments. Yeah, good. If you have given me that answer, then it's good. So function name should be descriptive on the task that is carried out by the function. It often includes a verb. So if it's a square, if it's a square, if it's a rectangle, it's a rectangle. Depending upon the functionality of that particular function, we are going to name that function. We have already covered that. So the basic syntax is define, that is def, space, function name, open and close parenthesis, colon, hit enter, and all the statements inside this function must be indented for this function. So the first line of the function is also called as function header. So this includes the keywords def and the function name followed by the parenthesis and colon. The statements underneath the function are called as the block of the statements, and all these statements must be indented. So when you're like, let's say that you have defined a function, and when you're trying to call this function, you can just write the name of the function and then hit enter. Whenever this, when the program is, or when the interpreter is taking this program and is trying to execute it, if the interpreter is at the point where you have called that function, like the statement where you are calling that function, it will go there and it will jump to the block of statements for that particular function, execute that, and then it will come back to its original position. So we will see an example, and that coming back to its original position is also known as function return. So let's take this example here. So this program demonstrates a function. First, we are defining a function named message. So for that, you are using the keyword def, def, message, which is the name of the function, open and close parenthesis, colon, and then inside this, the block of this message function are only two statements, that is print, I'm Arthur, print, King of Britons. So this is the part where you have defined the function, right? So after this, like let's say after these two statements, these three statements is where the function has been created. Now, when you want to actually see print and like I'm an Arthur and a King of Britons as your output, in that case, you'll have to call this function, that is message. So when you are calling the particular function, you just write the name of this function. So for now, we only have message followed by open and close parenthesis. So that is the reason why you're just using the name followed by open and close parenthesis. So we do know that Python interpreter has a top to down approach, right? So let's say you have maybe 5 statements prior to this block, and then 6th statement is your defined message. 7th, 8 is this, and after that, yeah, 9, 10, there could be 11, 12, and then let's call it line 14 is your message function. So when the interpreter is at line 14, it will jump back to line 6 and it will execute the statements or the block of statements underneath this message function. After that, it will again come back to here. So it will come back to line, did I say 14? So line 15. So whatever the program lines are, like after this message call is done, after this function call is done, that will be here. So the interpreter will jump here, execute these statements, and will come back to its original location. That is important to understand. So whenever you are trying to call a function, the interpreter will jump from its position to the block where you have defined the function, execute that function, and then come back to its original position, which is also called as function return. So when you have multiple programs or multiple functions in your program, your main function is called when the program starts. So from now on, like once we are introducing functions, every program should start by using our main function. So your first statement will be you're importing any modules if you are working with any modules. Otherwise, the first statement will be define like def main, open and close parenthesis, colon, and then you will start with your actual program. So main function is called when the main, like the program starts. So you will have all the statements inside your, you'll have all the statements, multiple functions if you have any inside that program, inside the main function. And after you're done, you're going to call that main function. So if you do not call that main function, none of the statements inside that block will be executed. So this is also called as defining the main line logic of a program. So let's take a look at this. So you have two functions in this program, and you are also creating a main function. So inside the main function, you have message function, which is defined. So in total, we have 1 and 2 functions. So inside the defined main function, you have print, I have a message for you. And look at this, you are calling the message function inside the main function. And then you are printing goodbye. So after you have defined the main function, now you are coming out of the main function. Say this, that is where you are defining your second function. That is define message, print, I am Arthur, king of the Britons. So when you are calling the main function, the interpreter, like, it will first go from top to down approach. It will not execute anything. It is just looking for syntax errors and all that stuff. And once it is done, it was coming to the main, like calling part where you are calling the main function. From here, it will jump to the function block, which is main function block. So now it is going to print, I have a message for you. So after the execution has started, from 1, it is jumping to the main block. And in your console, you will see the output that is, I have a message for you. Next, it is calling the message function. So now it will jump to the message function part. It will print, I am Arthur, king of Britons. And after the statements inside the message block are executed, it will jump back to message. Like it will jump right here. It will jump to the next statement, that is print goodbye. So the output of this program will be from 1, it is jumping to the main part. So I have a message for you. From the main function, it is jumping to the message function, that is I am Arthur, king of Britons. Next, it is coming back after it is following the function return process, and then it is printing goodbye. So you'll see the output. I have a message for you. I am Arthur, king of the Britons. Goodbye. So that is the mainline logic or flow of this particular example. So indentation of the statements is important. We already know that. We do know that all the statements inside the if else must be indented. Similarly, all the statements inside a function block must be indented. So this is when you are working with any other interpreter, like, but as we are working with Python idle, this comes like, you do not have to worry about the spaces. You could just type your sentence, call the open close parenthesis, colon, hit enter, and you are getting the indentation followed, like, the indentation is already present. So you do not have to worry about the tab or the spaces here. So like, so when you are done with this function, so in this function, you have define greeting, open and close parenthesis, colon, next statement, that is print good morning, print. Today we will learn about functions. So let's say this function block has only two statements. And if you want to print more statements in the program, but outside the function, all you have to do is backspace. Hit backspace and your cursor is again to its coming back to its original position. Now print, I will call the greeting function, is outside the greeting function. And even outside that, you are calling the greeting function. So the interpreter will jump here and it will just print. First line will be, I will call the greeting function. Next output line will be good morning. Today we will learn about functions. I hope this is clear. So in the next video, we'll be talking about designing a program to use functions.